Welcome everyone, Beasty here. Happy New Year, first of all. 2K20, I wish you guys all the best. And for one of the first videos of 2020, I wanted to do a guide, which I haven't done in a while, so there it is. I'm going to do a Terran versus Protoss guide. This is one of the most common questions I get in my stream, which is, how do I play this matchup? What build do you suggest? Do you have a tutorial for, one of the recent builds? And I picked a build for Terran versus Protoss that you can play it from whatever league all the way to Grandmaster. So if your goal is Master 1 or Grandmaster, you can do this build and you'll be absolutely fine. If you're Diamond, you can still do this build, and I think it's a very solid build, probably the most solid build. So let's jump into it. I'm going to talk about a lot of things, not just how to execute build order, but very simple things as well. So it's kind of like a guide from, no matter what league you are, you can find this useful. So I do want to say there are plenty of variations of this. 111, which is the Beastyqt factory starport, there's a lot of variations of it. I will be only showing you guys one that I think is the most solid and probably the easiest to execute. So for example, we'll be doing Widow Mine drops, but there are also variations with Hellions, with Siege Tank openings, with 3 racks openings and stuff like that. This is, in my opinion, the build to go for in 2K20. Now, first things first, always wall off versus Protoss. The reason why you do this is because of any kind of weird base rate situations, maybe even DT, so you can lift up your depots in the mid game, or just to prevent scouting in the early game from the adepts. So as you go higher in leagues, Protosses will try to shade in up your ramp, and you have to lift your depot, otherwise the adept goes in, and it's whole clown fiesta. Now, we'll be doing a racks first opener. So supply depot, then the barracks on 16 supply, and then shortly after we'll be taking the gas as well. Now, there's also a gas first version of this. The reason why I'm showing you guys the racks first, because it's safer, you can get a bunker. The gas first version instead of barracks first gives you faster tech by, seconds, literally. But this one gives you a lot more mineral income, and you can make an early bunker and just be safer versus all-ins or whatever you're facing. Now, the moment we put down the barracks, we're going to take the gas, and then the next SCV that comes out, the moment you hit 17 supply, this SCV should be rallied across the map to scout versus Protoss. No matter what league you are, this is the timing to go for the scout. Basically, this timing for the scout gives you exactly enough time if the opponent is proxy gating or doing whatever, fast expanding nexus first. You can see it straight away at the exact right moment, and you can, react accordingly if that's something that you want. Now, you can notice I'm scouting straight across the map, so I'm not scouting around my base. Sometimes I get this question, why don't you ever scout in TVT or TVP around your base? Well, even if you played against a cheeser, if you scouted right here, it doesn't give you a lot of info, right? Because you can proxy gateways here, you can proxy them here, you can proxy them here. So you're going to waste a lot of time going around your base depending on the map. And the best thing to do is just go straight across the map and get the scouting right then and there, because you'll get full information. Now, obviously the moment gas finishes, you put 2 on gas, you keep the SCV production, and when your barracks finishes, you're going to start a Reaper and an orbital command, which is very important. So don't keep making SCVs when your barracks is done. Make sure you get orbital straight away. Another thing you can do once you're a bit higher level, you'll notice that on the close mineral patches I have 2 SCVs. So if you have too much, APM to use, you can try stack the SCVs on those mineral patches. So what that means is, instead of having 2 SCVs on this one, which is, farther, you can redirect one of the SCVs to this one, and you get a little bit of a mineral boost. We're going to start a command center, and we're going to play this game as if the opponent is fast expanding. So this is a game versus AI, because I wanted to show you guys the build order, but we'll play it as if I scouted a fast expand. In case that it was not a fast expand, what you can do is you can still expand. This is a mistake a lot of people make. They see a gateway here, a cyber core, and a double gas, and they're like, oh my god, I can't expand, I just have to defend on one base. Sometimes you'll lose games because you will over defend and the Protoss will expand meanwhile, so you're gonna get behind. So if the Protoss is one basing, I suggest still putting down a CC maybe here, you know, maybe a bunker here, but continue your build order as you would. Versus proxy gates, obviously if it's proxy gates, you know, you would want to maybe delay that command center by a bit, maybe go faster factory. But if his gateways and buildings are in his main base, don't worry too much. Again, you don't want to put yourself behind by making your command center way too late. One common mistake the Terran player make is whenever they see something weird, they completely change their build order. You know, instead of adding a supply depot, they're like, oh my god, I need a barracks right now. It's like, you don't need to. You can just continue your normal build order. You just adapt what units you make and, you know, where you position your bunker or command center. So again, we're going to play this off like there's a nexus right here. And if you scouted that, you know that, you know what to expect, and you know what, that the Protoss is not all-inning you or anything like that. Starting the command center, Reaper. After the Reaper, we're going to get a Marine, and we get a second supply depot so we wouldn't get supply blocked. The moment you finish your orbital, you drop down the mule and you keep producing SCVs constantly. Now, the reason why we went Rax first is because you get this Marine compared to the gas first build. And sometimes when you leave your Reaper, when you leave your base with your Reaper, what will happen is the probe will come in and harass your SCV. Well, because you have this Marine, that will not happen and you can just kill the probe. So, the moment you get, let me go back a bit. The moment you get 100 gas, you want to start your factory straight away, and when this Marine finishes, you will start your reactor so you can pump out Marines further. Now, when this SCV finishes the second supply depot, what you want to do is start building a bunker on the natural. Now, if you're a high-rated player like, you know, Master 1, Master 2, or Grandmaster, you obviously don't need to do the bunker right away if you can properly scout and micro. But if you're lower league, you have the minerals, and this is why I suggested this build. You can just throw down a bunker in case there's an adept or stalker pressure. It will just save you a lot of stress and, you know, a lot of ladder points as well. They won't be able to deny your CC, so you'll just, you know, play safe. When you start your factory, you will soon add your second gas as well, because you want to be able to produce higher tier tech units. Now, what is the goal of the Reaper? This is a question I get very often, and this is something I'll cover in other matchups and for other races as well, if that's something you guys would want to see. So people ask me, so what do I scout? I got the Reaper, what do I do with it? So the SCV point, the whole point of the SCV scout is to see if you're getting proxy gated, if the opponent is one base, and if the opponent is fast expanding. Assuming that opponent fast expanded, like in this game, right? What is the goal of the Reaper? The goal of the Reaper is not to kill probes. This is where a lot of people make mistake and fail. They try to kill probes and they lose the Reaper and they don't get the scouting. That's not the point of the Reaper. Reaper is not a harassment unit. It's a scouting unit. So what you want to do is around 245, or even now already, you can jump in if you're confident in your Reaper micro, and you want to scout what tech follow-up is Protoss doing. And there are 3 tech follow-ups that Protoss players can be doing. I guess 4. More gateways and no other tech, which is going to be some kind of pressure, which having that bunker will be very, very good. It will be a Twilight Council, which can be Blink Stalkers, it can be, you know, Charge Lots, Adept, some kind of push, or Dark Templars. And most common one will be Blink, with some, you know, DT. I would say Charge Lot and Adept openings are not really popular. And the last but not least, you will have the Robo and the Stargate. Robo is usually, it can go 2 ways. It's either some kind of pressure with a prism, which is, I don't think you will be meeting unless you're higher league, or just a safe observer opening, which no pressure on you, so you can do whatever you want. And the last one is the Stargate. The Stargate will usually, I would say 90% of the games will be Oracle opening, and in that case, you need to position your units properly so you can deflect the Oracle. This is the point of the Reaper, to scout the follow-up tech. Now, every time you scout in, always try to enter like at the edge of the base and just scout all the way around to make sure that you get the full scouting. Sometimes if you run from here and you lose the Reaper right here, you haven't scouted anything. And the pylon might be here, might be there, and they're never going to put tech, you know, in front of their base. So it makes the most sense to go in the back of the base. Now, what you'll notice me do is what you should be doing always. Whenever there's a stalker chasing you, or even if there's no stalker, you can always throw down a grenade in the mineral line, you disrupt it a little bit, maybe try to pick off a probe. But only pick off probes if you already know what the tech is. So this is like a mistake I see even in like master players. They go in, and let's say the pylons and the tech is here. They start killing the probes, and they're like, oh my god, I can get the probe. And then they kill the probe, and lose the Reaper, and then they die to Dark Templars. Don't do that. First confirm what tech it is, and then you can do whatever you want. Because once the Reaper scouts the tech, its job is done, and you can, you know, rip in pepperonis. Now, once we got that out of the way, the bunker is finishing. You put in the Marine, Orbital on the Natural the moment it finishes, and the moment your factory finishes, you will start your starport straight away, constant Marine production, and we will go for Widow Mine opening. So I will show you guys how to play with Widow Mines. Fully mining on both gases, and what I usually do regarding saturation, I always try to have 17 on the minerals in the main base, and then 17, 18 on the natural. The reason for this is you'll usually be building something with 1 or 2 SCVs, so you want to still make sure you have full saturation. You can go up to 18 SCVs per mineral line, assuming you have all 8 minerals. Now, the one thing you'll notice is I drop the mule straight away on the natural from my main base. Every time, no matter what matchup you're playing, the moment your next base completes, if my third completed right now, I would drop the mule on the third. Why? Well, the simple reason is next. If you keep dropping mules in the main base, you will not necessarily lose minerals, but you will lose mineral income, which is more important. So if you keep dropping mules in the main base, you will mine it out faster, which means that less workers can mine in the main base, which translates into you will still mine the same amount of minerals, but your income will be lower. So you always want to drop mules on your next base, so you don't mine out, you know, main base and then natural and then third super quickly, but it's more kind of balanced act, if that makes sense. Now, starport finished, I'm queuing up a medevac, a Widow Mine. I will be going up to 3 Widow Mines with constant Marine reactor production. You want to keep making supply depots. At this point, once your factory finishes, this SCV will be making supply depots pretty much for the rest of the game. And that's something you can get used to. Just get one SCV and keep making supply depots over and over and over. And that's one way to, very efficient way to learn how to not get supply blocked. So I'm getting my medevac, getting my Widow Mine, and let's say this was a starport opening. These are the kind of positions you want to put your Widow Mines in. So, you know, don't put it like randomly here. Put it in the mineral lines, and kind of that way you can bait Protoss into losing the Oracle. So if the Oracle comes on these 2 SCVs, you can pull them here, and the Oracle gets, you know, baited. Second Widow Mine, you can put it in the main base, or, you know, vice versa, whatever you prefer. From here on out, we're constantly producing SCVs. Don't forget that. Constantly drop mules, and keep your production going at all times. So, I'll be showing you as well how to transition out of this, and how to successfully, you know, do your first push, how to do your transition to the third base, and so on and so forth. Now, the moment I get 50 energy, I'll be dropping another mule right here. Medevac is out, but I will wait for the third Widow Mine, because why not? Now, as you load up your medevac, you boost it across the map to go to drop. You have your bunker here, you're safe, you're still producing supply depots. What I'll be doing now is I'll be starting 2 more barracks. This is the safest build you can do in TVP, by the way, and it follows up with a really nice push. 2 more barracks, and I'm going to add 2 tech labs as well. I'll be adding this replay, by the way, in the description of the video as well, so if I miss anything or you're not sure about something, you guys can check in the replay itself as well. After I start my 2 barracks, I will start 1 gas on the natural, and I will start a Raven. So this is why this build is so good. Even if the opponent goes for Dark Templars, you will be able to see it with a Withermind drop. You can save up one scan, and then you will have Raven when the DTs arrive. And we will also go for 2 siege tanks. Why 2? Well, if the opponent goes for some kind of blink opening, you can have one in the main and one in the main and one in the natural to hold off blink stalkers, because they can be very, very annoying. And later on, we will use both these add-ons for our barracks, which is another cool thing about this build. Engineering Bay will be going down very, very soon. And the moment the barracks finish, we want to make start stim, start +1 weapons for our Marines, and yeah, just keep macroing up. This is around where I start walling off my natural. Now, there are some players that don't wall off natural against Protoss. I do it because later stages in the game, there can be DT run-bys or Zealot run-bys, which can be super annoying to deal with. A question I get often is, well, what if I get attacked and I lose all my depots? Well, friend, if a Protoss is right here with his army and you're dying, you probably already lost the game before that, so don't worry about it. When the gas finishes, we're going to put 2 on gas and the Withermind drop. Another thing you can do, by the way, is I forgot to say, you can save up your Reaper if you got the scouting. Don't be greedy, and you can just get the Watchtower and just get, you know, constant scouting with the Reaper. Maybe you'll see an Oracle move out, Prism, whatever else. So, I'll show you how to do the medevac drop and how not to do it. You can see Siege Tank in production as well. So, as you're entering the Protoss base, you want to use your medevac boost. And this is another question I get very often, is how do you drop units while moving? You press D, which is my hotkey for drop for the medevac, and then you click D and then you left click on the medevac. This will cause so that your units drop while moving. So I never click drop here, right? I click D and then on the medevac, and the Witherminds will be dropping while moving, so they're all nice and spread out. So this is what happens. Boom, boom, boom. And as they're dropping, what I do is I select like this, press E, which is my burrow hotkey, select this one, press C, select this one, press C. Now, the first Withermind is how you don't want to do the Withermind drops. Look at what happens. Never, or at least try not to, let your Witherminds auto-connect. So what I mean by that is this Withermind auto-locks onto the closest probes, into the closest units, so it goes into the gas probes, and what basically happens is the probe that it locked in went into the gas, and this Withermind didn't kill anything. On these 2 mines, you can see I selected what to attack, right? You can see that click right there. So usually you just select and kind of try to do most damage possible, which you'll see these 2 Witherminds are much, much more devastating. Basically clearing almost all the probes except 3. When the Witherminds shoot, you should always try and pick them up, boost away, and save the Witherminds, and you can do the drop again a little bit later. Now, back at our base, we're almost fully saturated on the natural. We're going to keep walling off, and we're going to add another gas very, very soon. Raven is out. We're safe against Observers or Dark Templars. Starting stim, another siege tank coming up. +1 will be started now. Boom. And we're making the reactor on the starport so we can finally get those medanks out. And after the second siege tank, we'll be lifting off the factory and make another add-on. So the reason why I like this build and why I suggest this build to you guys, it's very passive but super strong, because you still have harassment options, which is the Witherminds. You still have, you know, Reaper to scout. You have strong defense with siege tanks, Raven, and a bunker, and you have a lot of Marines, which follows up into a really strong push, safe play, and a third base, which is why I picked this build for How to Play Terran vs. Protoss 2020. It's just solid. It's existed for a while. Some things have changed, which I'll go a little bit further in later. But yeah, what's next? Well, if you haven't lost a medevac, I would suggest save it until you do the push. Right now, the Protoss, if your medevac escaped, expects you to drop again. So just wait until you do the push. They're gonna move their whole army here, and then you go for the drop while attacking. Big brain strategy. Now, fourth gas coming up. We're getting stim, we're gonna get combat shields, and we will drop down the third base right now. Now, one thing that people make mistake of, again, is they keep producing SCVs at this point. So, if you look at my natural, it's 17 on minerals, 1 is making depots, 17 on minerals, 1 is making command center. At this point, you stop making SCVs so that you can afford your command center, your third command center, whilst continuously producing your units. So never stop producing your units. And obviously I'm getting all the upgrades that I need, and I'm going to start my medevac production as well. So because I'm not producing SCVs, I also have enough money to start producing Marauders, which are more expensive, and I also will have enough minerals to make 2 more barracks. So I want to be on 5 barracks, 1 factory, and 1 starport for now. Let's speed things up. At this point, you're just macroing, and if you did a lot of damage with your medevac drop, you can actually transition into just doing a push that we'll be doing soon, and you just win the game straight up. If the drop goes bad, don't worry, it's not game ending, you're not super far behind or anything like that. You're still getting a third, don't worry about it. Now, the first timing that you'll be doing is with the first 2 medevacs, Ravens, Marines, the Marauders that you have, and 2 Siege Tank Rhinos.
Add-on is up and running.
The other 2 medevacs, the third and the fourth you'll be making, what you want to do is you want to load those 2 up with the units that'll be coming, and you have 2 options. Either you can take those third and fourth medevac and drop them into the natural while you attack the third, or you can just have them join up your army. I always suggest splitting up the units because especially in lower leagues, not even in lower, like under GM, people will have harder time dealing with 2 sides of you attacking than just 1. And if you do a 2 medevac drop on the natural with stim and a bunch of units with +1, you can literally end the game by just killing all the probes. So I made a reactor with my factory for this barracks. These 2 are finishing, and your unit production is going full steam ahead. What I like to do is, because I leave my base around this time, like I said with the first 2 medevacs, you should be in front of your opponent's base, by the way, around 7 minutes with this push. You know, 6:45, 7:15 is probably the timing you want to do. This is around when I continue my SCV production, because my SCV is finished, or third is finishing. Your unit production needs to keep going, and you want to add a missile turret or 2, just in case the opponent has DTs now for some weird reason. Sometimes that happens and then you just lose the game. As far as the upgrades go, you can see I'm adding another engineering bay, first armory, so I can continue +2 weapons, and then +1 shields. Now, from here on out, I won't be talking about production, much more. Obviously, keep producing units, keep producing SCVs, saturate your third, drop mules on the third. Now, the push itself, how do you do it? Well, first things first, you see my armies right here. Assuming the opponent saw you, that's when you do the medevac drop. This is what I was talking about. That's when you go for the medevac drop. When the opponent is paying attention to your army, they completely forget about medevac. This happens to me as well. I see a push, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta prepare, and then the medevac drop I didn't kill with the Widow Mines kills my whole mineral line. You want to siege up your siege tanks. This varies from map to map, but in general, pretty much always, you want to be pushing the last base from your opponent in Terran versus Protoss. So what you want to do is siege up 2 tanks. You don't want to siege them up here, so they're in range of Nexus and they're very open. Maybe you want to siege them like here and there, and have your bio in this position. So if they engage, the siege tanks are kind of farther back. Blink Stalkers can reach them. The Zealots will have a hard time reaching them, so they can blast away. Now, I decided to go all the way down the ramp and right here. And you can see the siege tank covers quite a bit of ground. So what you can do is you grab your Marines, you can attack the Nexus. If the Protoss decides to poke you away or push you away, the siege tank will be blasting. And this is kind of like the cover siege tank. This medevac can join in the army. And what I suggest is never stim into the Protoss. Let Protoss engage into you. So put pressure with these units with 7, 8, 9, 10 Marines. And the rest, just have them in the back like this. Let the Protoss engage into your concave, so then you can do maximum amount of DPS. If you push in, you risk of getting killed by Colossus, Storm, Disruptors, whatever else. So this also minimizes risks of you just kind of getting AoE'd down. What do you do with the Raven? Well, if they have Colossus, you want to use Interference Matrix against it, and then you can push a little bit into their army while their strongest unit is not there. If they have a bunch of gateway units, just all around gateway mortal units. I would suggest using at least one anti-armor missile and maybe like 2 turrets, or anti-armor missile, matrix on the immortal or colossus, and then 1 auto turret if you have the energy. Try not to use anti-armor missile when the zealots in your army, because you will actually affect your army as well, and they'll get -3 armor. So try to avoid that. And usually when you use the anti-armor missile on the Protoss army, they will pull back until it expires, and if that happens, charge in with your army and try to snipe the Nexus as fast as you can. Now, the 3rd and 4th medevac are up, so what you can do is, like I said, pick them up. I suggest dropping in the natural or the main, depending on the map, or depending on the map layout. Or you can join them up with your main army, depending how well your push is going. At the end of the day, you can try both and see what works for you. Maybe if your micro is good, join them up with your army. If your multitasking is good, do the drop in the natural or the main. This is how you do the attack. Now I'm going to kill some of my units so I don't get supply capped at this point, because you will be trading out units at this point. So I just kind of wanted to get rid of the supply. And I'll get rid of the Raven, because obviously if you can save the Raven, save it. But a lot of players lose the Raven in this push, so I'll be killing that one as well. 3rd base established, mules dropping. You can see I'm adding some missile turrets to prevent War Prism harassment. 1 here for DTs, 1 here for DTs, and the unit production keeps going. So what do you do from here? It doesn't matter if your push failed or I mean, if it worked, you won the game. But if you failed the push, let's say you traded out, that doesn't mean go back home and camp forever. You can keep on the aggression, try to save your medevacs. Maybe you can load up this army, go into the main base, and then drop on the natural at the same time. You just kind of go back and forth. You can drop the main. When the units arrive, you can drop the 3rd, drop the main. You get it. Try to keep the watchtower control so that, you know, just so you don't get flanked or surprised in any way. The moment you establish your 3rd, if you have above 10 SCVs, grab the 5th and 6th gas, because you will want to have a lot of gas income, because your next transition will be mass liberator, or a lot of liberators. So 16 on the natural, you can see 13 out of 14 in the main. As the mineral patches are going away, by the way, they're getting mined out. Make sure that you're not at this point 17 out of 14. You know, just be 12 out of 14, 13 out of 14. If another mineral patch gets mined out, you move those to the 3rd, and you do the same thing with the natural. Now we're on 5 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. You can also produce reactor widow mines if you want to play with widow mines. It's not necessary, but it's very, very good against zealot compositions. Not so good against colossus, because the zealots get clumped up very often, and the widow mines will do a lot of work for you. You can see the upgrades. +2 weapons, +1 armor, and +1 ship weapons. This is for Liberators. Obviously, you don't want to be upgrading +1 vehicle. We're not making siege tanks. +1 armor, you can go that as well, but I prefer ship weapons, because Liberators will do way, way, way more DPS. Once you establish a 3rd, you can feel free to drop some sensor towers, maybe 1 here and 1 here, to kind of help you with vision, spot the army movements, war prisms, and so on. And once you establish your 3rd with the constant unit production, I will be adding extra starport. So for now, we'll just do 1 extra starport, and we'll add fusion core for that Liberator range upgrade. And a little bit later, as the gas income starts trickling in more and more, we'll add another starport together with 5 barracks. And then as you expand more and more, you want to have more production so you can kind of keep up with your economy. You can see I'm fully saturated. I'll stop making SCVs. I overmade by a little bit. You can see me drop in the main, drop in the natural. Getting the 4th base, very, very important, because again, I stopped making SCVs for my 3rd, so I can make the 4th base once again, because I will have enough minerals. Now, when to transition to Liberators? I usually like to transition after 6 to 8 medevacs, depending how drop heavy you want to be. If you're really into dropping your units, you can go up to 8 medevacs. If you're more passive, 4 to 6 medevacs. I would say 6 medevacs is fine. And then you want to start producing your Liberators. because the Protoss will have huge ground army, which your buy units will not be enough for, so you kind of need some heavy tech to deal with that. I will be adding Ghost Academy as well. I get a question often, why do pro players not make ghosts at this point in the game? The fact is, you can't make Liberators and ghosts. You have to pick one, right? You can make 2 ghosts and 2 Liberators, but then those 2 Liberators are pretty useless. If you have 4 or 6, that's a much bigger impact and much more zoning potential. If you want to make ghosts, you can, but I would suggest add them after 180 supply, because having ghosts is always good, but it also comes with a downside, a lot more units to micro and a lot more work to be done. So if you can handle it, go for ghosts. If you can't, stick to Liberators. And if they have High Templars, you can go ghosts. But the thing about High Templars is Liberators do a very good job of zoning them out as well. And if you're facing Colossus, you can go Vikings. I prefer to just go Liberators anyway against Colossus, because once you kill the Colossus with your Vikings, they're kind of crap against Zealots and Immortals, while Liberators still kind of retain their usefulness. So I'm kind of creating this mini wall here, and you'll see that whenever I have, you know, extra 2 medevacs and more army, I like to send them out on the map. And again, just keep poking, right? You can use a scan, you can see if the opponent has an army here. If he doesn't, go for it. One thing to do, don't force it. If the Protoss has enough units to defend your drop, if it has 10 Stalkers, don't just fly in and be like, well, I hope he's not watching. You don't want to take risks, because if your medevacs get sniped, you will die to a counterattack. So play it smart. And as long as you're keeping Protoss, let's say on 3 bases right now, you're getting a 4th, you're ahead in economy, and hopefully you're ahead in tech because you started your Liberator production.
Upgrade is ready.
Double reactor on the starport, Liberator range coming in, still going on with the ship upgrades, getting the 4th, and after the first 3 bases, which I forgot to mention, which should be always orbitals, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th base and so on should always be planetary fortresses, unless you're obviously making extra command centers for, you know, extra mules or scans. Now, the moment I establish my 4th, I think soon I add my 3rd starport and I add 3 more barracks, so I have a total of 8 barracks producing. I think I should be adding another starport, unless I'm crazy. Well, if I didn't, you should add a 3rd starport from 4 bases as well. And yeah, your next big, I guess, push, timing, whatever you want to call it, is whenever you have 4-6 Liberators, you want to gather all your drops and move into the last Protoss base, whether that's a 4th base or 3rd base, and siege it up and kind of play around with Liberators. Another thing you can do that's very common is you can load up all your medevacs. If the map is suitable for it, you do a doom drop, like let's say here, and then you can siege up Liberators in this position and kind of create really awkward situation for the Protoss. The moment I establish my 3rd, you can see the mineral income is popping because I'm supply capped at a 200. You can add a 5th, you can add extra command centers if you want, and just keep macroing. Again, add ghosts, there's the starport. Add ghosts, get ghost upgrades, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If the opponent adds Tempest to counter your Liberators, that's when you want to add 12 to 16 Vikings so that you can one-shot Tempest whenever they get closer. But remember, if they have Tempest and a lot of, you know, Colossus or Disruptors, their army is super immobile. So what you can do is start dropping multiple sides, because Tempests are not very good at dealing with that. That's pretty much it. This is the way I would suggest you to play TVP. This is kind of, again, I know there's a lot of other builds and other variations. If you get to higher leagues and you want to try something new, you can search online for builds like, you know, reactor Hellions into Banshee openings, but those are also much riskier to do. You can try opening 3 barracks, which I don't suggest. But this build, like I said, if you lose game and you're like, this build isn't that good. No, the build is good. It's probably you that's not very good. So you should get practicing. Stop making excuses. Okay, you're not a League of Legends player. I know there's no teammates to blame, but don't blame the build. Don't blame the balance unless you're super high in Grandmaster, okay? Accept, this is my advice to you, no matter what league you are. Accept, say, before you play StarCraft, say, I suck at this game. And that's okay. And then you go into the game, and whenever you win, you say, okay, I won. Whenever you lose, That's when you learn, and that's when you improve. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Again, Happy New Year. If you want to see this kind of video for Terran versus Terran, Terran versus Zerg, maybe even Protoss versus Protoss, Protoss versus Terran, Protoss versus Zerg, please let me know in the comments below, or what kind of guide video you would like to see next. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for supporting me this whole time. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with yet another video. Bye-bye.